All to Bullshit and Bourbon. We have a very special episode this evening. We decided, those of you that have watched the show, since we started a couple months ago, you understand that, we try to have a very level and even keeled, discussions with, different viewpoints and approaches on, different topics. And, Taylor being kind of the more level-headed, I think, of us all. Um, he has very strong convictions and beliefs, but doesn't allow it to control him. I guess like in an emotional way. He tries to stay logical and unemotional about things. And me and Jeff and I'm sure many others have kind of prodded him to throw his hat in the ring in politics. Having a legal background helps. A lot of his background helps as well, and so he has. He officially filed. How many days ago was it, Taylor?
Oh, it was 2 days ago that they finally accepted it.
Okay.
They're on the ballot now for
Yep. And
mayor
his
of McKinney.
professional camera crew was out videotaping, earlier, and he was, doing some political ads with his young daughter, running the camera, and his youngest son. I don't know what he was doing, maybe social media or a
He
microphone
was
or something.
trying.
Yeah, he was doing
Yeah.
his best. So, it's going to be a little bit of a grassroots movement, but honestly, I really feel like that he has a good, a good chance at on doing something real and potentially even going further, in the future. Uh, very clean background. Always been involved in the community. I'll just, I'll just read this little quick synopsis real quick that I put together with the help of his wife and my knowledge of him. Obviously, he's my brother, but Taylor Willingham is a seasoned attorney specializing in estate planning, real estate, probate, and elder law in McKinney, Texas. A father of five and happily married for over 22 years, Taylor's personal journey has been shaped by community and family. He moved to McKinney in 2009 during an economic downturn. At the time, he was finishing up law school, things like that, uh, and was involved in some doing real estate and that sort of thing. Bringing with him the resilience learned from serving a 2-year church mission in the Philippines, which I'll get into. He has a book that he wrote about that. With over 15 years of experience, Taylor has navigated significant economic and demographic shifts, helping families and small businesses adapt. He is also an author of multiple books, including Itui. Is that how you
Yep.
say it?
That's how you say it.
Itui, An Adventure to the End of the World. Do I Need a Will or a Trust? Why Should I Care? I'll Be Dead. And helping your parent live with long-term care. Texas Medicaid eligibility and strategies to save the estate. Now, with two thriving businesses, WG Law and WG Title, Taylor is poised to discuss how McKinney can tackle current economic challenges like inflation, housing costs, technological disruption, and workforce changes. Jeff and Taylor also do free seminars that assist people that are on fixed incomes and things like that on how to navigate, a lot of the challenges that people are dealing with in, kind of these modern times in this economy. Is there anything that Taylor, that you or Jeff would like to add to that?
Yeah, I like to tell a little bit about when I first came to McKinney.
Yeah, please.
So I
Wait.
came,
I may have spaced out, but did we mention what you're running for?
yeah,
Yeah.
the mayor of McKinney.
Okay, and then
Yep.
secondly, did you have to pick a party or let you do it independent?
No, that's a great thing about it. I can be. There is. You cannot pick a party for the mayor run.
Awesome.
I
Awesome. All
know
right, continue.
that's one of the great things about it. It's completely independence. Um, Alrighty. So when I first came to McKinney, I was studying for the bar,
Mhm.
and basically I was told, "Hey, drive around Texas, find the place you want to go start a law firm and financial planning practice for the my professor who owned a law firm and financial planning practice in Lubbock." And so we drove around Texas. McKinney was amazing. Like if you come here, it's beautiful. It's just a beautiful,
Oh
beautiful.
no, it really is.
And so we were like, oh, that's where we want to go. Well, 2 weeks before I already have our apartment here. I had everything ready to go. But 2 weeks before I take the bar, I get a phone call saying, sorry, we got to cut this off. We're not going to open up a practice out there because it was 2009. If everybody remembers 2009, everything collapsed. I remember sitting every day watching my boss sit there and stare at the stock market and the down every day, and then just go, man,
Yeah.
this is brutal. And all he did was answer phone calls all day from his clients going, should I get out? Should I get out? And he goes, well, if it keeps going down like this, there's going to be nothing left. And so,
Whoa.
he basically just said, I'm sorry, dude. I goes, I have to consolidate. I can't do it. So I had no job. I moved to McKinney. I finally was able to secure a job for $10 an hour being an attorney for in an immigration firm. And after a couple of months of doing that, I realized I could go out on my own. I wanted to open up an office. So I went out on my own and I walked into the Synergy Bank building and I was putting up my furniture in a suit up like it was really heavy furniture. And all of a sudden I hear someone just walk into my office and sit down and go, oh, and I turn around.
It's probably Jeff.
There's Jeff Reddick. It was the first time I ever met him. And he's like, so what are you doing?
And notice that he sat down and didn't help. and let out a gasp like he
one
was.
of us remembers the story. I'm going to say that I helped, but I have no idea. I don't know.
He offered to help. I was just finishing it up. It was like almost done. And basically,
I do remember you were wearing a suit though, with nobody to talk. You're just like head to toe, tie, everything.
I know, and I was just like, I would sit there and go, I know nobody in this city. I have no business. And I'm like, how am I going to generate business?
Yeah.
I had no idea what to do. And so basically me and Jeff developed a really good friendship. He helped me out a ton during that time. Basically how I did it, because I had no money. I took out 2 credit cards. Both had $20,000 limits on them. And that's how we lived. We lived off these credit cards, and that's how we survived. And like slowly over a couple of months, just by going out there, I'd go to every networking meeting. I would generate, and the work that I generated was the stuff no other attorneys wanted, which was all these people that were losing their homes. It was really real estate work, bailing people out of jail at the middle of night, doing what were called cash bonds. And so at like 3 a.m, I'd get a phone call and it would be some family going, can you bail our kid out of jail? And I'd go down to the prison and bail them out of jail and make a couple $100. But basically it was just dealing with people who were completely impoverished. And like, we were really poor. Jeff can tell you about the car I used to drive. Remember that? The red one? The dashboard was like peeling up. Like I was a scoutmaster.
That's almost, in your defense, that's almost every car in Texas with the heat down there.
Oh no! Like every car in McKinney is nice car. I had the
ugliest. McKinney, in McKinney, yeah.
I had the ugliest car in McKinney. Like I was like the Boy Scouts. I was the scoutmaster.
Yeah,
my first guy here, and like the Boy Scouts had nicer cars than I did showing up to the thing. And they called me the ghetto attorney. It's like, what are you like hang out in the ghetto or something? Like, I was like, well, I kind of just like, just do whatever. But like the only way we survived was because of like, so many people were so kind. Like Jeff gave me his car. He felt so bad for me. He goes, Taylor, I want you to take. You remember that Mazda It was the nicest car I ever had up to that point in my life. Yeah. I was like, oh my
You
God.
know, I think I need to go see a neurologist. I'm forgetting about all of this, but you're right. This is coming back to me.
Yeah. He lit like it
Jeff's
was,
getting Alzheimer's.
well, your dad gave you a what was it? It was like a Jaguar.
It was a Oh, yeah.
I remember that story. You told me about the Jaguar when I was down there.
20-second side note. My dad had been driving this car he had for like 10 years, and he had a nice car because he had a company car allowance, and he retired, but he never bought like that level car with his own money. And so he'd been looking for like 6 months, comes home. My mom bought a brand new Jaguar, same exact model, same color, but didn't turn in the old one. And so she's like, well, it's all new underneath. And he's like, this is the car I've been driving for 10 years. Like, what are you doing? So he gave it to me, and then he's like, he's like, you don't want it, I'm gonna have to like, I'll take it. He goes, I mean, it's a free car. Dude, that free car cost me like $6,000 in a year because all the shit I had to fix on it. Jaguars are expensive. Got rid of that real fast. Went back to an Altima.
Yeah, they're notorious for the amount of maintenance you got to put into them.
I had a hose go, and I go to the guy goes, hey, so it's your hose? I'm like, okay, what's that? He's like, $1,100. I went, what? You said it was a hose. He goes, well, it is, but they have a tri-hose, so I have to replace all 3 hoses at once. So what are you gonna do? Like, guess
what are you gonna do?
Yeah. Anyway, back to Taylor and my Mazda. It was a Mazda 6, if I believe.
Oh yeah, that was the nicest car I had up to that point in my life. It was great. I was like,
well Taylor, finish telling us kind of like your journey, because just kind of what has gotten you to where you're at now. You were talking about your car. Jeff hooked you up with a car. He was Saint Jeff.
Yeah.
He hooked you up. The patron saint of used cars.
Yeah.
I'm going to take it back because it was better than my car. But anyway, go ahead.
Blessed be.
So basically, at the beginning, what I remember one day, me and Jeff were driving down the road. I'm like, man, all the phone calls I'm getting is bankruptcy. And Jeff goes, I know a guy, so he got me with a guy named Gary Lyon, and Gary Lyon was this bankruptcy attorney that worked for the federal government for years, and he came over and started working through the firm, and that was my second hire, was Gary Lyon. I had a paralegal and Gary Lyon, and I was paying myself whatever few dollars I could get every single month. And I remember every single month like going, well, if some business doesn't come in the door, I'm just going to file bankruptcy, because I have like all this credit. I had.
Well, at least you have a guy working for you that can help you with that.
And I just remember every single month we somehow would make it. Every single month there would just be enough coming in, and I'd go, oh my gosh, we just got enough for this month. We got it covered, and we would just go through. But the problem was like the debt was like just becoming insurmountable. Like, because I had student loans, I had I had about almost $40,000 in credit card debt. And like I was making like $3,000 a month, and I had I had 3 kids that the third kid had just showed up, and man, that was in my book. I talk about like there was like a point where I almost committed suicide.
Like the third one just showed up. It's like, do I need to have a talk with you? Like how kids show up.
He did have a 9-month lead time on that.
There's a process.
Yeah. But I remember it was so like it was the point, like I talk about in my book, where it was like I was just like, well, my life insurance policy would be better for my family than me. I remember having these thoughts because it was just like so overwhelming, because it was like there's no way I'm going to make it out of this. And in one of my books I talk about it, because I was sitting there contemplating this, and Dad had his journal that he had given to me, and it was sitting up on the stand. And I'm like, oh, I've never read that. And I pulled it out and I started to read it. and I was reading about how we got foreclosed on.
Yeah.
We didn't have a home. We were basically homeless. Mom was in and out of psych wards.
Yeah.
We ended up going back and forth between Texas. And I got to this part in his journal. He said, like, he was divorced. He had 4 kids. He was living in a cabin or this trailer in the middle of the woods.
Yeah. I remember.
He goes, I was so depressed. He goes, I wrote at the top of the page, accomplishments. And he goes, I could only write one thing. I got my Eagle Scout.
What's that?
The only thing he could think of is, I got an Eagle Scout. That was the only success.
I actually can think of a couple of things, but I'm sure when you're in that frame of mind, it's hard.
Yeah. And then at that moment, he said, I stopped myself and said, Steve, pull yourself out of this. And he took all of us. He went and found a job back at Nebo School District and went back up to Utah.
Yeah.
And I thought at that moment, what if our dad had given up?
Yeah.
And it was so, like, I still remember that moment. I bawled like a baby for a straight hour. I couldn't stop crying. Like, it was so overwhelming, like, to realize the sacrifice that was made. And I was a little teeny kid. I had no idea what was going on. I just thought we were having a great time out in the woods.
No, well, I mean, that's what we kind of always did, was usually during summers, we'd all jump in the Honda Civic hatchback. We'd rally down to freaking Texas. Dad would marathon it, doing crossword puzzles on the steering wheel, cracking his double jointed knuckles. And, and we'd sit out in Grandpa's trailer in the middle of the woods. And, honestly, I mean, it was some of the most, most fond memories that I have, growing up. But yeah, no, it's, I'm glad you bring that up, because Dad has a very unique talent, even if not personally, of his life lessons manifesting when you need them most.
Yeah. And so, like, at that point, like, that totally, that was the thing that saved my life. I probably would have given up at that point if it wasn't for that journal that that dad had written for us. And then, it was probably a couple months later, this kid walks into my office and goes, I've been to every attorney, and someone told me you're the only attorney that will take weird cases. So he walked in with this case, and the case was his father was killed, but the life insurance company had gone bankrupt. And so now, when life insurance companies go bankrupt, they still are insured and you can still get paid out on them. But you have to go to Delaware, and you got to go to the bankruptcy court there, and you got to argue that, and prove that you have a claim.
A valid claim. Yeah.
And so no attorney wanted to do it because they had they didn't know what they were doing, because they didn't have any idea how to do that, because it's not really something that you can, like, go and learn.
Can you hook me up?
So I was like, dude, I'll take on your case. I took on the case. I figured it all out, and I did it on a contingency fee. And the contingency fee was enough to pay off the rest of my student loans, plus all my debt. Yeah. And so from that point
on, Rocky theme song.
Yeah. I was rocking and rolling. I was like, it was just like, it was my lottery moment. That was like my win the lottery moment, where you just like,
the universe provided.
Well, and I took a huge risk. I had to throw down about $15,000 on that case because the kid had no money. And so it was kind of a big risk. So, but that was my like saving grace moment. But from then on, basically, me and Jeff, we basically just meet with people in McKinney, whether they're rich, they're poor, they're whatever they are, and we try to help them with their financial situation. And
that's awesome, because I wish more people would do that, because I mean, I know for a lot of people, and this will kind of segue into my next question. just I know that there's a lot of people out there, especially the elderly, that are on fixed incomes that are having issues, as far as simple things like when you're only making like $1,800 a month on Social Security or something, and they bought their house for maybe $50,000 or $100,000, and the way that real estate has gone up in Texas, their tax bill, went from maybe $1,200 a year to where, now it might be $4,000 or $5,000. I don't know. But I know that, that is something that a lot of people on fixed incomes are dealing with right now. What is mayor is something that you feel like you could do to help address that. Cause I know it's something that you deal with in your law firm and something near and dear to your heart.
Yeah.
What would you
I'm
do
gonna
to
let,
address it?
I'm gonna let Jeff address the inflation issue because he sits in these consultations with me. And so I'm gonna let him talk about because he understands inflation better than I understand it and why we have such a big problem right now with it.
Okay.
Well,
That's
and,
not
well,
a
and actually, as you guys address the inflation issue, if you could at least, try to make it applicable to McKinney, so
right.
so like
So
what you see in your demographic there.
obviously, so mayor doesn't have some kind of magical powers, but I do think an idea that Taylor mentioned, and I don't know if he's going to be able to pursue this further, but McKinney, like all the other suburbs of North Texas, has experienced ridiculous home price inflation, right? I mean, most of the country has, but on a relative basis, we have at a significantly higher pace because so many so many companies were relocating their headquarters here for the favorable tax climate and also regulatory climate, particularly from, I mean, Elon, right? He moved to Austin. I mean, there's for the last almost decade, California's just been an open, just a floodgate straight to North Texas. It seems like. So something that that we could do something about in the more local area, McKinney area, is find pass ordinances or introduce I don't know what you call it at the city level. I guess it's ordinance, might be it's not a
Yeah.
bill, but
No, the ordinances.
to keep it's sort of like I'm gonna show myself here because I'm never been in the Coast Guard or the Navy or anything else, but like when a ship keeps taking on water, then it goes like this. It gets more in the water, which takes on more water, which gets more in the water. Right? You just until it's
Yeah.
done. The same thing happens economically, right? The more the big banks and these gigantic hedge funds and the Black Rocks can get money at a much less expensive scale than the average Joe, the more they
Yeah.
can buy assets and bid them up, which makes it that
Mhm.
much less expensive, less reachable for the average person, which makes it only the realm of the institutions, and it just becomes this extremely one-sided game. And so there's an
Well,
idea that you
basically,
could say,
when there's a house for sale, and somebody like me or you is going to
right,
put an offer in, and we don't have cash, and somebody like BlackRock or something swoops in and says, "Hey, we're going to do a cash offer right now." Boom, and they can
100%.
outbid you. Then yeah,
And,
no, that I could definitely
and so
see.
you
So you're saying that
could,
there's certain ordinances that you could do that
well, you
could.
could you could make it to where, hey, you can't, own more than 50 homes per zip code or even 300. You could do it to where you don't have this 800-pound
Okay.
gorilla showing up at every single transaction for residential real estate, right? It's one thing if it's, I don't know if you should do that for like
Well,
strip malls
forgive my
and
ignorance,
commercial
but
buildings.
is that something that you can do at a local level? Is
Yeah.
that something that has to be done at a state level, a federal
No,
level,
so
or can
like
you
the
do
city of
that?
Dallas did it. They basically banned the hedge funds from buying properties in the city limits.
Oh no, that's actually fucking awesome.
Yeah, so it is absolutely something that can be done, and it's something because really it's like people go, well, we shouldn't stop the free market, but the problem people don't understand is it's not a free market when BlackRock can go to Japan, borrow at a 1% interest rate billions of dollars, bring that money to the United States, buy up homes where we have to pay a 7% interest rate. That's not a big
they're making 6% right there.
Yeah, it's like if BlackRock wants to go get a 7% interest rate too and buy a property, I think you go, okay, fine. It's an equal competition. People can decide between that. But if you're going to allow them, because they outlaw, we can't go get loans from Japan to buy homes.
Yeah.
Like, that's against the law. Like
Yeah.
you can't go, well, I'm just gonna go to Japan and get that 1% loan and buy this house. Well, they won't let you do that because the banks have written laws to make sure you have to use them.
You can with DeFi, with crypto.
And now we're back to crypto.
Yeah.
So,
but honestly, I mean, this is all stuff that I didn't know. I mean, I knew that BlackRock was swooping in and buying up commercial and residential real estate at record through one of their subsidiaries called State Street. But I didn't realize that they were borrowing the money from overseas at a reduced rate that made it an uneven playing field. So thank you for.
Well, even if I mean now it's different because and they certainly could and they probably are. I don't know if they are or not. But before they were financed, they were borrowing the money from the Fed at 0, and we were still getting, even if mortgages were 3%, that's still not a level playing field, right? I mean, especially when. Especially when you come in the door. So I come in the door, I want to buy from you, Mike, and you got a house to sell McKinney. And I understand it, right? You're going to go, well, Jeff Reddick. Jeff Reddick, you got to sell your house to be able to afford to buy my house, but this BlackRock guy is just going to cut me a check. Now, on the one hand, you don't want to interfere too much because you as a citizen also have the right to sell your home, right? But we're getting to the point where people can't afford homes.
Yep.
This is a very real thing.
That's problematic for society, right? So, there's got to be some. If to Taylor's point, if they're not going to have a completely level playing field, then I think if they can put their thumb on the scale, then I think the little guy gets to put his thumb on the scale in somehow or some way as well. Well, and so I think that's something we can maybe do.
Well, we really do need to get politicians. If we're going to stick to this, old system of elected officials that represent us, and it's supposed to represent our best interests, we really need politicians to throw their hat in the ring that are going to go to bat for the average person and that have integrity to where, they don't just get on a soapbox and say what we want to hear when it's election time. And once elected, then they start taking, special interest money and, backdoor deals to, I get it, that they're to an extent to get anything real done. At times, you have to, play in the mud a little bit because it's so, our government and our system is so steeped in, those processes that it's going to be an uphill challenge for somebody like you, Taylor, that does have integrity. And I can say that confidently because I mean I know you intimately. I growing up, being brothers and stuff like that. I know your history. I know everybody in your life, and I can't think of a single person that would have a negative thing to say about you. So,
no, I agree.
How would you, how do you feel that you could get things done and still maintain that high level of integrity that I know you have?
Well, it's always going to be the challenge of anybody is the greed aspect of anything. When someone has enough money to basically take away your concern of financial freedom for the rest of your life, and they offer you a ton of money, it's like, it is incredibly tempting to take that. Now, I have faced that multiple times throughout my career. I've been offered large sums of money to do what I would consider unethical things. And so currently, I have never fallen prey to that because I don't need other people's money. I got my own. Really at the end of the day, like, I can earn my own money. But like anything, everybody has to realize
integrity.
Yeah, but like at the end of the day, you have to always realize that you have to check yourself always. You have to always be willing to stand on a principle. And it's hard when someone puts you in a spot, especially if someone gets very clever with the way that they're doing something. But it's never an easy task to face that type of temptation to change your ethics for one deal in order to get some money in the door. And as you can see, I think most people that go into politics go in with that virtue of, I'll never do that. But when they're put in the spot, we're seeing they're doing things that self-benefit, because it goes far deeper than just that. Like Jeff knows this about me. I have a very fundamental belief about what love is. Like, I define it a very distinct way. And that is, it is 4 things. One, and fundamentally more important than anything, it is trust. You cannot have love in your life. And what I mean by love is an interconnected relationship with other human beings unless you are trustworthy. Ultimately, I believe this is what Christ was trying to teach people when he was teaching, because the word faithful means trustworthy. That's I think it's actually the better use of the word, because the faithful, it connotes that you're intellectually connected with God, where when you're trustworthy, it means your heart. Like, your actions are what are more important. And I think fundamentally, when we violate trust, we are violating the core of what we are. And it's what degrades us to becoming so individualistic and isolated that you give up everything. So first, you have to become a trustworthy person. And that means you have to understand the agreements that you've made with other people and the way that you're going to behave. And sometimes that requires like going the extra mile on certain things. Number 2, in order, I believe that you have to, if you're going to be a loving giver, you have to be willing to change for what is best for everybody else, not what's best for you. It's what's best for the whole versus the individual. That has to become your focus in your life if you're going to be a loving being. Now, you might not want to be a loving being. That's your prerogative, and you can be who you want to be. But love fundamentally starts when you make that shift, that it's not my will be done, it's what's best for the group. Thy will be done. That's what Christ says. The third,
and that makes sense, seeing as, as an elected official, you're supposed to, be almost a shepherd, or a representative of your flock, or your constituents.
Yeah,
you're supposed to put their interests above your own, and whenever their needs above your own.
Yeah, like right now, the big issue with the self-dealing that congressmen are doing, where they're getting information and then they're investing and making a bunch of money.
Thank you.
It's not illegal. Technically
but is it moral?
Yeah, but
because it's something that me or you would be thrown in prison for. It'd be considered insider trading.
Well, but fundamentally, it is not what is best for the whole system. It's what's best for you as a congressperson. And so it is an act of selfishness, and ultimately it destroys love, or what you would consider an interconnectedness between people. And so people lose faith in Congress because there isn't that trust, there isn't that connection anymore, because they're self-dealing.
And honestly, that's, I think is very apparent right now, is the American people have lost trust in the system.
Like I'm gonna plug Jeff here, because I watch him do this all the time. Jeff will be in meetings with clients where Jeff is incredibly intelligent and very, very good.
$5 on the way.
At talking.
He's on Venmo. He's like Venmoing you money.
He can take an old woman into his hands and coddle that lady to do anything that he wants to do. And I never watched Jeff do that and take
in a malicious way. Yeah, like, in a malicious way.
Like, he will always go, this is what's best for her. This is the best thing. This is what what he believes is the best thing. And he does it every single time, even when I've known Jeff is dead ass broke. Jeff got hit with COVID very hard. And there were meetings that we were sitting there because we couldn't meet with people. And that's how Jeff makes his money. And so we would be sitting in these meetings, and I knew he needed to make money. And the best thing for the person was for them to do nothing with him. And that amount of trust, that amount of ability of a person in that moment, like I would absolutely trust Jeff to be a politician. Like, because Jeff will do what's best for you.
So, all right. Well, real quick. I mean, I just because I do have quite a few questions that I want to get to. If you don't mind, I'd like to shift a little bit. I know it's a hot topic, nationally, but especially in Texas, immigration. I know that me and you have talked about, a shrinking workforce. And I know in McKinney, with, a lot of the construction that's going on, everything from, labor, in, fast food, construction, skilled labor, whatever, across the whole spectrum, McKinney captures it all. There is what I guess my question would be, there is potentially, if you look right now, there's pain points to where, people are claiming that, like whole businesses are losing their workforces due to the crackdown on immigration. What are your views on immigration, secure border, and how you would mitigate the impact of securing our borders and that cheap labor, to be honest, and filling, ensuring that those jobs are filled and that, the machine keeps working?
So like in the city of McKinney, this is a huge problem because about a third of our city is H-1B visa immigrants. Like you drive around my whole neighborhood. That's
even the tech industry. Yeah.
Because it's all the tech jobs that are up here in North Dallas, and they own homes here. And the reality is, of what's really happening is people are not coming willfully to America anymore. Like our bigger issues that we don't really pay attention to what's going on is in 2000, 1 out of every 50 kids that was born with autism. It's now 1 in 44. No one is having children. So we have this baby boomer generation that's coming up through, and there's no young people. And not only are there very few young people, 1 out of 44 have some kind of disability that's going to hold them back. So if we do not bring people into America, that means the current people who can work have to carry the burden. Unless you have,
and they're all targeted.
Yeah. And you walked around and met fellow Americans. No.
Yeah. No, oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
But let's think about that really seriously. So if we do not find a way to encourage immigration, we are not going to have the population to take care of what we have going right now. Because if you want a growing economy, you grow it really through people. Like that's the only way we know.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's people like Elon Musk and a lot of people have talked about that, the sign of either a growing economy or a shrinking economy is population.
Yeah. And so it's one of these realities that we have to face is like, okay, well, if we didn't have a bunch of elderly people or in disabled children, maybe you can get away with this idea of not having immigrants come in. You can kind of stagnate it out and work it. Like China's been able to keep their economy functioning, even though they have a massive demographic problem. But they don't have they don't have disability problem that we do because we allow our pharmaceutical and health industry to put stuff in our freaking food and everything that's causing people to be horrifically in bad health. Like China,
Oh,
you go
yeah.
to China and you go to Asia, there aren't fat people. Like,
No.
I just
Yeah, you
I
don't
just
have
went to,
you don't have diabetes and a lot of these issues.
yeah, I just went to the Philippines. Everybody's still pretty skinny.
They're all fit. They're all healthy.
Exactly. Like I was walking around. I get on a plane, get off in America, and everybody's massively obese. Like,
Yeah.
it's clear it's an American problem. And guess what? In the Philippines, they eat the same crap pretty much that we do.
Yeah.
Other than they have a little bit stricter health codes when it comes to certain foods that they'll allow in. There's a lot of food that no one else in the world will allow except for in America. So there's a huge problem that we have with this. And the reality is, if we don't have some immigration, actually a lot of immigration, you're going to have a demographic nightmare. Unless,
and across the spectrum, I mean, and I'll kind of interject here with my personal thoughts is, it needs to be, both skilled labor, in the tech industry and things like that, and, physical labor, working in fields, doing construction, things like that. We need, across, there's a serious lack of skilled trades right now. Electricians, plumbers, whatever.
but
But
I put a big unless there because,
okay.
of course, this could be solved with robotics. I mean,
And actually, you know what? I'm going to stop you because that's a good, nice segue into my next question, if you don't mind. Do you have more to speak on that?
Nope. I think that's
All right. So my next question would be, with everything we just talked about, what do you feel or see the role of technology in solving these problems, specifically AI and robotics? Feel free to branch out, but if you could start there.
Well, I'm going to first start with what's going to be the problem that's happening right now. AI is coming for white collar jobs. It already started. It started last year, and it's ramping up, and it's going to be significant over the next 5 years. So much so that there's probably there's some analysis out there. It's as high as 80% of white collar jobs could be gone by 2025. And if you don't believe that this is going to happen,
by when?
Or sorry, 2030. 2030. We're in 2025, 2030. I will tell you what happened this week in my office. So this week, I get a call from 2 tech guys in Silicon Valley saying they've invented an AI that can help answer our phones.
I actually, me and my lady earlier this evening, we tested it out, and after you're done, I can give you my input on it.
Yeah, and so we used it, and in 30 minutes, these guys were able to program out something that I cannot teach my receptionist to do after years of training. And this AI can talk to you. Pretty much it sounds as if it is a person. I mean, you can kind of tell right now a little bit like, oh, this is AI.
Well, mine was named Mike, but it sounded just like you.
It was my voice, actually. But I'm not calling it me. But the reality is that is something that could take the jobs of receptionists all over the country.
At the same time.
At the same time, instantaneously. It could be a wake up the next morning, you call into work, oh, I'm sick. Oh, don't need to come in, don't worry. But the reality is as I was talking to it, because I got, before I programmed it not to give legal advice, I had it programmed to give legal advice. And it answered every question that I threw at it correctly. And I sat there and listened to my own voice talk to me. And I I don't need to be here anymore. Like
I've replaced myself.
Yeah. That's why I'm running from there.
I've myself out of a job. in under 30 minutes.
But
Hey,
the
real quick, just so
yeah.
the link I go through, I can always see the comment screen, but it won't ever let me reply or enter. I don't know why.
Yeah.
So I'm not ignoring C90. I just can't
Well,
talk to him.
hey, try it now, Jeff, because I made both you and Taylor moderators. You should be able to.
Let's see. It might just be this.
Go ahead, Taylor, while he's messing with that, while we're staring at his forehead.
So like
Sorry.
for me to sit here and say my job is not going to be taken by AI, maybe not 100% in the next 5 years, but is it going to take a significant portion of the work that I do? Yes. That means I have to either adapt or change to this reality and somehow be able to integrate it, or the reality is going to become my job is not needed to be done by a human. It can be done far more efficient and better by AI. And if that is the reality, not just for me, it is for thousands of millions upon millions of people throughout this country. So the question is what are we going to do? What do you do when AI can do everybody's job and humans aren't needed for in any skilled working?
So I guess my question would be is as mayor, how, because it's coming. AI and robotics are coming,
Yep.
and your constituents as mayor, as those jobs are being replaced, what do you feel as mayor that is within your sphere of influence that you could do to be proactive to help with that transition?
Well, one, you have to teach people how to use it as a tool. Like the fact that this right before I got in here, Greg Hall, who's an attorney, he's a friend of mine. He's messaging about my campaign statement, and he's like, "Did ChatGPT write this?" And I was like, of course, ChatGPT helped me write this. Not I do all of my thinking, my analyzing, editing through AI now. And the fact that I have a friend who's an attorney who's in his 40s that isn't doing this, he's so far behind the 8 ball. Like you are way, way behind where technology is right now. You better learn how to integrate this. So I'm like, Greg, you need to call me and we need to sit down and talk because you need to be integrating this into your business because all the attorneys that are going to do that are going to take more of the market share until eventually they're weeded out of the business by AI itself. But right now, I can go and do a contract review with somebody, something that used to take me hours where I'd have to sit down and yellow mark out this contract forever. I can go through, upload it into ChatGPT, have it identify issues, do a reading through it, and it takes me 1/8 of the time. I can pass on those savings to my client. And my client goes, "Oh my gosh, the last attorney I went to charged me $5,000 to do a contract review. You did it for, an hour or 2 hours worth of work." It's like, how are you able to do it? Well, it's AI can amplify my abilities.
Oh, no, absolutely.
And
well, and actually, you know what? That's a great segue. Whenever you're done with your train of thought, if you could segue into how would you take that same model and that same best practices, I guess is the best term I can come up with, and implement that as a mayor to processes on the government level, to make things more efficient and to cost less to the taxpayer and those sorts of things.
Oh yeah, like your whole if a city is not investing in an AI system to help run that city, that is a complete waste of resources because the cities have enough money right now to be able to go, okay, where can we implement AI into the workforce and be able to handle situations, deal with complex problems that are going on. Like, for example, one of the main issues that's happening here in McKinney that everybody's fighting over is whether or not we should fund and expand the airport in order to allow commercial flights to come in. So I have heard about this issue for years. It's already been approved. The only thing that they're talking about now is funding it. Should it be the government who funds it, or should it be private citizens? And so I go online and I just start reading people's arguments. And this is what this citizen says. And this citizen says, we shouldn't be spending any more money. This citizen is saying we should be investing into the future because it's going to benefit us. And so I sat down there and just said, okay. I took it, I put the argument into ChatGPT and said, give me the pros and cons. ChatGPT lists off all these pros and cons. I took it over to Claude. I said, Claude, here's ChatGPT's pros and cons of this situation. What do you think of these? And it gave me its thing. And then I took it to Gronk. I put it in Gronk and I said, Gronk, what do you think? And this is what I think. And I got all this information. And I finally got down to, and it gave me a comparison. It goes, because one thing I wanted to know is, has any other city like McKinney done this? And the AI went, yes, Provo, Utah. Provo, Utah just implemented a commercial flight program that you can fly into Provo, Utah. And it went through everything. It went through all of their hurdles, the things that they had to go through. And ultimately, they were able to make money. But ultimately, the pros and cons were listed out that this could be a really disaster for the city of McKinney, because if no commercial companies come in and want to fly in, you spend all that money. They don't want to do it.
Right. If you build it, they still might not come.
Exactly.
There has to be a cost benefit.
And then, so ChatGPT's argument was it felt like it was better to do a joint venture of funding this between taxpayers and private corporations, because the private corporations would have the expertise to know if this is actually going to be profitable to them to do. And so you're sitting there and going, the beauty of AI right now is, me and Michael were talking about this before we got on here earlier today. You can be the dumb guy and now be smart. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm going to take over the world.
Because you don't
the rise of the dumb guy.
Yeah, you don't have to do the thinking. The thinking is being done now from something that has an IQ of about 160. That's like having Elon Musk in your pocket and you don't talk to it. Like, how stupid is that? Like I think now all the time, like, why am I not putting these issues that I'm having, these struggles I'm struggling with, and going, ChatGPT, help me out with this. What should I be doing with this?
I use the shit out of Grok. I cannot tell you. I don't even use Google anymore. I can't tell you, even writing an email, I will cut and paste it into Grok and I'll say, make this sound professional. And it structures it. It, fixes my grammar. It fixes my punctuation, all those things that I know I'm weak at. I mean, I'm strong at a lot of things, but, writing, professional emails and stuff isn't one of them. And it just busts it out. Yeah, I do a couple little tweaks and bing, bang, boom.
Well, Jeff, tell how you implemented it and how it completely changed it for you.
So what I do now is, after a meeting, I will just literally ramble minute and a half, 2 minutes, just sort of like, met with Mike, we talked about this, and this. He wants to live in a cabin forever, and whatever. Like, I go through and I'll just download.
Mission accomplished.
people's concerns, fears, attitudes, whatever, and then I'll say, I want you to pull out I want you to summarize the salient points, right? Summarize the meeting, and I want you to create an email to my team for our next steps with the meeting summary, and then a client-facing email. And so, for example, I might even say in there, like, and so-and-so is extremely conservative. She does not feel very confident about financial markets. Well, it's not going to mention in the summary she's scared, but it might say, Mrs. Jones is a conservative investor who does not want to be on the cutting edge of the next wave of investments, whatever they may be, until she knows they're going to work out. I mean, it'll do something to basically make it politically correct, right? Yeah, that's really good. But I will say, as a quick caveat, I'm going to jump pretty quick here because I've got some chores I promised my wife I would do tonight. That sounds like euphemism, but it's actually actual chores, actual work. But I did, just as a caveat, what I do think is going to happen for a season is there's going to have to be people that are almost like AI auditors that know what they're trying to ask and where they're going and have an ability to figure out if they're being told the truth. For example, ChatGPT is and I love it. I use it every day. It's phenomenal. However, I asked it for some information on a brand new law that Biden signed January 6th that got rid of some restrictions on Social Security benefits for basically for federal and state and local workers like teachers. Teachers can now get Social Security benefits if they're married to somebody that has benefits or if they worked another job that had Social Security withheld from it. So I asked it, and it's like, yeah, that's not a law yet. It hasn't been passed. And I'm like, but it was passed. No, it hasn't been passed. And it starts putting things in bold. I know why you would think this, Jeff. And I actually went to Grok. Grok tells me that I'm right. Put it back in, and then it corrects Grok, or it thinks it corrects Grok. And after about 20 minutes, I'm like, why am I arguing with this thing? It just pissed me off because I knew I was right. I had all this, I had hundreds of articles that I could pull up on Google, and I'd seen, CNBC statements about it and all this other stuff. But I found out the reason why is because for that particular point of data, it still thought the Biden administration was ongoing.
Yeah, it
didn't realize it was having like a time hallucination. And then it went to whitehouse.gov to figure out, it's like, well, it's not listed on whitehouse.gov, so that law wasn't passed. Well, that's because when you go to whitehouse.gov now, it's the Trump administration, and it only lists Trump things. It doesn't go back past January 20th. So it had this little hiccup. So on the one hand, it's phenomenal. But if I did not know that I knew that this was the law, I would have absolutely been convinced that it was still waiting to be passed.
But that's a good point. But like, this is things because people don't understand how it works yet, so they don't understand things like, hey, ChatGPT's database isn't current. So when you're
on some things, it's just not on all things.
Yeah. Like, but it uses the web now more and more. Where Gronk, you get usually, I think they're more updating the database more currently because I usually, if I'm asking for current events, I don't seem to have the issues.
Right.
Whereas,
so those things will eventually get worked out.
Sure. It seems less bias, and it will actually. Like, it will actually sharpshoot the shit out of like Elon Musk, and I mean, it doesn't care. It's if it's right, it's right. If it's wrong, it's wrong.
Yeah,
I mean, I've tested it multiple times, and it seems to be the most accurate.
Yeah, well, ChatGPT's legal reasoning is way better. Like, I've used both.
And I'll defer to you on that because I'm not a legal expert, obviously.
Yeah, but they're like, you just got to know where to go for what you're going to use. But that's the whole idea is we live now in a society that these are tools that can enhance you. And if you don't learn to, be enhanced by these tools, you're not useful in a company. Like, if someone interviewed for a job, actually, I'm hiring an attorney tomorrow to come work in the firm. And one of his big selling points to me was he sat down and he was all weirded out by it because attorneys are all weirded out about using AI. They're like, it's like viewed like as a negative. It's because I don't understand it, but like,
well, it's viewed as a taboo.
Yeah, but like he was like, I use it all the time. I just want you to know. And I was like, no, that's a huge selling point that you're adaptive to new technology and you're going to enhance your ability because like he goes, I can meet with somebody now and I would have to charge a lot of money for. I can go in, create for them how they can do things for themselves and show them the way and where they can afford to pay me to do it for them. And so he's like, it's been such a
it really makes that barrier of entry to having a legal professional help you. And I'm sure that this is the case in a lot of, a lot of things to where, that barrier to entry to where, like say I wanted a will and a trust. I could go in there and tell an AI, this is the assets I have. This is, what I want to protect against, whatever. And say, now make me a will and a trust. Potentially I could take it to somebody like you look it over, you check it real quick, make sure that everything's in line, put whatever stamp you got to put on it and file it, done and done. something that would have cost me probably, $5 grand, $6 grand might only be a couple $100.
Yeah, well, C90FW, he said there's no hard in Twitter AI, Taylor, and I want you to know I always put the hard in there. And every time I think of it.
So hard. Super hard.
Guys, I gotta go. So C90, the answer is yes. Series 65 and a CFP. Or just have Mike text you my number, just call me.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what you're talking.
Did you see that? Hey, Jeff, did you see that question?
Yeah. He was asking if a Series 65 means you're a fiduciary financial advisor. Doesn't mean you can't sell insurance, because I hold both. I have an insurance license, a Series 65. At one point I had all of them, but I'm a CFP. But I would say if I was looking for someone, you want to find someone who can be fee only if you want that, and I would find someone who is a certified financial planner. I know that sounds like I'm talking my book, but just so you know, for me to take that, just to get it, I had to take 6 courses, college level courses after I, was in my career. Like my tax textbook was 900 pages long. My estate plan textbook was 2. They were like this tall total. And each course had a 3-hour capstone test you had to pass just on that course. That gave me the right to sit for a 2-day, 10-hour comprehensive exam where the answers were things like A, B, and C, and D, but A is options 1, 2, 3, but not 4. B is options 1, 2, and 4. C is options 1, 2, and D is option 1. Of course, you're sitting there going, well, shit, the only one I know is option 1. So it does a really good job of, yes, an RIA, correct. So I'm an RIA. And actually, an RIA is a registered investment advisory firm, and IAR would be the individual that works for the RIA. But that's what you want. That's going to give you the best chance of getting as close to unbiased advice as possible. It's not perfect because, for example, a lot of guys are pretty much investment only. They don't do estate planning or insurance issues or risk management or other things. And they might tell you, like a perfect example, I had a guy call me up once and he wanted to buy raw land to build his dream home. But he wasn't going to build for like 5 more years, but the land was going to get sold. And when he did it, it took half the money out of my pocket, right? I was managing like 800 grand, and then he took it and I'm managing 400 grand. But we talked about it, and I said, well, look, I don't, is this what you want? Yes. Is there any place else you'd rather be? No. I don't have any great ideas. They're going to make you 15 or 20% a year to justify you not doing this. I think that the land's going to appreciate pretty significantly. Fast forward 5 years, he's got his house on a lake. He's still a client, and he's referred me like 5 people because I never mentioned to him. He's in sales, so he knows. So he sends me a thank you card. He sent me a thank you card that said,
is to look after the best interests of your client.
Absolutely. And it wasn't hard. It wasn't hard to do, like, morally, but I did not mention, nor would I have, but he wrote me a thank you card that said, hey, Jeff, the fact that my fee, he goes, I know what my fee is, and the fact that it's based on my assets, and it got cut in half because you told me to do what.
Did he put like 50 grand like in the thank you card?
But he did
like a grandpa.
So my point simply being, though, even if you were fee only, you could get bad advice because they might go, well, I don't want to recommend something where the money leaves my purview and therefore doesn't give me the right to manage it, right? So I think the most important thing is the caliber of the relationship you have with someone. Ask them the questions. I tell my clients every first meeting I have, I'm like, look, ask me how do I know you're not burning me enough, Jeff? How do you get paid on these things? Like, ask all those questions that should be offensive, but they're not, because it's not my money, it's your money. And if I get offended, then you know what? You probably shouldn't work with me. And so that's how I handle it with my clients. Is I'm like, you need to know exactly where my biases lie. Otherwise, how are you ever going to feel comfortable in my recommendations? So yes, RIA, CFP, Series 65, that's the way to go.
Cool.
Yeah. And
hard R, obviously, whatever that means.
So if you got to go, Jeff, go ahead and bounce. I do have one last question for Taylor, and then I just want him to be able to free flow and like say whatever he has to say before we close out.
Okay.
All right. You guys take care.
I appreciate you, Jeff. Thanks for showing up, man.
All right. Bye-bye. Hard in. That's what Josh said. Not R. That's terrible. Delete this from the internet.
No, that's all right. calling it a hard in. I was making a joke, kind of like,
All right.
hard in, like.